Welcome to Maintenance Matters, a podcast by Marshall Institute, capturing conversations with industrial maintenance and reliability professionals about their successes, challenges, and stories. Enjoy the episode.
Hey, this is Greg Foltz, President and CEO of Marshall Institute, and I'm pretty excited today. I've got a chance to talk to a good friend of mine, Brian Sprouse, and just get a little bit of insight in terms of how his business and his role is affected by the environment today that we live in. And Brian, you want to take a minute and just tell us a little about yourself, maybe your name, company, and where you're working out
of? Yes, Brian Sprouse. I've been with Columbia Forest Products for 22 years. Our plant's located in Old Fort, North Carolina. We are North America's largest producer of hardwood decorative plywood. So when you think of case goods, cabinetry, those things for indoor. Yeah.
Great. And tell us a little bit about your work history, kind of what you do now at the site and kind of how you got there.
Okay. Because I started in Columbia as an employee on the floor, just from the outside hired in. My whole career has been around wood products. And from there, went into supervision. From supervision, went into a continuous improvement role. Columbia started down that path in about 2003 or 4. So I had the opportunity to work with helping our plant grow. Of course, one of the basic starting places is 5S, and from there, standard work. And then from there, kind of led us into a journey of looking at our maintenance practices. And so there is where I kind of met Marshall during that time. It was probably 2010. And so we did an assessment, and then we began our journey with maintenance excellence. And so during that time, went from continuous improvement manager to maintenance manager, and worked in that area and helped drive that throughout our organization and more or less at the plant level. And from there, went into a value stream manager, which is kind of plant superintendent, but just running daily activities in the organization at the plant.
Interesting. It's an interesting history. You've gone through lots of different angles of the organization. I know we worked together on your maintenance and reliability improvement for a few years, and that was some good stuff. You've got a lot of passion around lean and maintenance improvement. How would you say, from your value stream manager position, how does maintenance practices affect your business, your output, your product?
Yeah, I'm very proud of what we do have. We have a very good operator care throughout our organization, and especially in Old Fort. And so most of our employees actually do maintenance on our equipment, basic equipment care. And then from there, we use, a simple work order system to help do correctives. Maintenance has a good PM program to help drive our PMs. We have gone down the journey and are very active with predictive maintenance. So a lot of that is working well for us too. And so it's a good relationship between production and maintenance, and we know we're not going to be successful if we're both not aligned and going for the same goal.
Great. So with some of the experience that you've had, when we think about things like operator care, operations being involved with helping to do the basic care on the equipment and preventive predictive maintenance and, CMMS system or some kind of work order system, things like the spare parts, where have you found the most benefit, the most improvement opportunities?
I think some of the biggest improvements that I have seen and opportunities of having better uptime is the operator care. It's the first line of defense, and it's just that simple maintenance of inspection, doing your clear activities, clean, lubricate, inspect, adjust, repair. And having our employees being intimate with our equipment helps us be more proactive to making sure it's running at a high level.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay, so let's just transition a little bit to the kind of environment that we've got to work in right now, where there's so much remote work happening. There's certainly impact on the shop floor to some of the. How has the current pandemic impacted your business? That if I walked into the floor today, what would I see? Maybe like it was like before COVID-19, what it's like after COVID-19. To describe some of the changes that you've seen happen.
Well, of course, our cleaning has increased quite a bit, and so more time focused on cleaning areas that people are going to touch. Break rooms, offices, machinery. Most of our folks within the social distancing piece, nobody really works that close together, and so that's been a benefit for us that we're not having to wear the mask. Now it's a choice, but right now we're going by the CDC and OSHA guidelines. If we don't, we feel that how we work on the floor that people are not close enough. Now, if they have a desire to wear the mask, we encourage it. Break rooms, we did limit breaks, and so how breaks are done, we took chairs out of the break rooms, kind of spread people out a little bit. Close meetings in offices, we are using a little more Skype or smaller groups. That has impacted our training a little bit. So, staying with a group less than 10 is something we've been practicing there. Let's see. One of the things that I'm very fortunate that our corporate group did make a response plan. And so we do have 5 levels of response that we go through. And each one has a different level of circumstances and practices that we follow. And some of those are simple things to where if you call in sick or you go home, you can't return without a visit to the doctor, and they, if they need to give you the test or what kind of symptoms you're having, but we won't let anybody back in unless, they've been cleared by a doctor. Yeah.
All right. That's interesting.
Yeah. We've talked about using a thermometer to check temperatures. We've been going through this since the 1st of March. And we're very fortunate that in our facility, so far yet, nobody's being diagnosed with it. And so, we have had people that when they do call in sick, they have to, if they have a family member sick or a thing they're sick, we have put a couple of people out for 2 weeks for that incubation period to make sure they don't have it. Let's see.
Interesting. One thing that's interesting, Brian, is the connection between clean to inspect to detect, and we find ourselves, correcting things and then protecting the assets. And with this, the clean and protect are a much closer link, right? We're cleaning to protect people in the COVID context as well. And I think there is a definite connection between the disciplines and the habits that we build in to clean and inspect our equipment, and then having the same sorts of standards and habits relative to cleaning the equipment and protecting relative to COVID-19 or diseases that might transfer. So I think there's some connection there. I also think there's connection to the, it's interesting. I think the EH&S, kind of environment, health, safety part of the world, the H is larger these days, right? The health, part has suddenly taken on a dimension that in many organizations it didn't have as much impact as it does today. And so I think there's been an increase in the size of the H in the EH&S equation as all this has gone on. How about as far as your production? How is this, ramped up, ramped down, cycle?
Yeah. Actually, through the first part of this, we maintained very well. It probably wasn't until the first month the order file dropped, and we did end up laying off around 200 folks, and we actually shut down part of the plant for a week. The good news is when it came back fast and furious, and the order file grew very quick. But one of the things that we focused on very much is cash, and so reducing inventories. I used fixed labor to run equipment, so those type of things. So it made us do business a little bit different during those hard weeks, but it was also a good learning experience.
Yeah, I know, running a business, one thing that I find is that I heard a quote a while ago that, our sales is vanity, our profit is sanity, and cash is reality. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just so true, right? I think that almost every business out there has figured out that the reality is cash, and you have the cash to keep things afloat. And certainly COVID has pushed that perspective a lot as we've gone forward. But yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting times and times when there's been a lot of flexing and adapting to different techniques. People with kids that are teaching from home, and trainings that are happening virtually. We're doing virtual training like 2 a week, 3 a week, and delivering remote services that we just, before you could physically go, and so you did, but all of a sudden that whole part of the rug is pulled out from under you, so you find other ways to deliver services. So it's interesting. Although you have to deliver plywood physically, I'm assuming. So
yes, that is true. So and that's a good point too. With of course, all of our stuff goes on flatbeds, and so when you speak to vendors, we do have a policy around vendors coming in, truck drivers. We actually keep them out of the plant. We've got porta potties and things set up to where those guys stay outside, because we don't.
Okay, so that's a change.
Yeah, that's a change. Oh yeah.
Right. So you can socially distance a bit from that perspective of just keeping vendors a little bit more, and we've seen that on the consulting and training side is one of the first things that happened was people shut down vendors coming into the plant. And so, but fortunately, a lot of the stuff that we can be done virtually. So we've been able to, as long as cameras are on, one of our learnings is certainly that when cameras are on and people are participating in the meeting and you can see that they're engaged, you can have pretty effective meetings that wouldn't, often have happened pre-COVID. You would have waited for that physical opportunity instead of, saying, well, we can get 90% of it with a virtual meeting, so let's go ahead and make that happen. It's been interesting to see how effective some of that can be. So, so I think some of this change is here for a long time to come, right? I mean, I think there are things that, are going to come back, and some things that are going to, be changed for the long term. How do you think that affects your world? What do you think the longer term picture looks like relative to how things might be changed?
I don't know. I think it's something we're going to have to see and understand. Our sales force probably have more interactions with our customers than we do with the plant level. Right now, without the social distancing, we are running as normal.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we're very fortunate to be able to do that.
I know I think of you guys often, I know this maybe isn't your primary market, but you go to Lowe's or Home Depot at this point, and it is a zoo. They're everybody that's home is, going and getting their supplies and doing their little weekend projects, it's interesting. So I walked down that wood rack, and I think, man, I wonder how this is affecting the guys back at CFP.
Yeah, one of the bright spots is our e-commerce, especially through Home Depot, is
that's right,
probably up 100%. And
wow,
it was actually growing before the COVID, but now it's really taking off. People are ordering their plywood to do home projects.
And the e-commerce is where you cut plywood to size.
It's just online, so any specific cut or finish or species, we will do that for you, package it, and ship it the next day. So it's very neat. It's been very, very productive. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it went from one shift to a 3-shift operation in the last 6 months.
And I think it's one of the things that we do see as a COVID-19 is there's been these shifts in how people are buying, right? Amazon, is just going nuts right now, right? Just continuing through this thing, like you just described, how that affects your industry. Our industry, it's the whole online e-commerce sort of thing that is huge, and fortunately we had some LMS, learning management system for managing virtual training prior to COVID-19 hitting. We had content development systems in place that allow you to develop more web-based electronic delivered content. And having all that infrastructure in place allowed us to in fact, we're doing technical training. We're about to release 3 electrical courses that are going to be web-based only. And, so the market's different. It causes you to start thinking about things differently. And that's kind of what one of the things we're really interested in is, how does this affect your business? Like your e-commerce sort of thing. How does this affect your maintenance department? Right. So there's some impacts in various industries on maintenance. And how does it affect us as we go forward? Because sometimes we're thinking differently about things. So, so you just described one of the opportunities that came from this situation that we were thrust in, which was, what'd you call it? Your e-commerce? Is that what's
it's just internet sales through Home Depot.
Okay.
So one piece of plywood cut to a specific size to, I don't know what our max panel allowance is, but.
Okay. So that's an opportunity. You had the infrastructure in place, but suddenly that became a bigger part of your picture than it was previously, right? How about the sales folks? Do you think they're utilizing a lot more internet technology, Zoom type stuff to make sales now, or are they still physically going to clients, or how's that working?
Yeah, well, traveling's at a standstill. So right now, we are communicating through Zoom or some other form of communication electronically.
Got it. All right, and just as we kind of work towards wrapping it up here, if you could look back 3 months ago and have given yourself some advice for the journey you're about to embark on, what would you tell younger by 3 months Brian Sprouse?
Tell me that one more time, because I didn't quite catch that.
If you go back 3 months and give yourself some advice about the journey we're about to heading into, what would you tell yourself pre-COVID heading into this thing? I had a conversation with some folks this morning about this very thing, and
it was, as far as our level, I don't know that we could have done anything much different, and I guess I'm saying that because so far we're very fortunate we hadn't had a case. People have been very open and very patient as we've worked through this, and understand, our tailgate meetings went from an office to being out in the parking lot so we could spread out a little bit. But I think everybody's very open to that and understand. One thing about Columbia that is it's also, Columbia is employee owned. And so that makes a big difference. And with our caring team, one of our core values is we are family. So there's a lot of open communication and also support to folks that need it, which is also makes things very, very smooth. And if people need to talk, there's always someone available to help them work through something. So
great. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Some of the things that you prepared in advance turn out to be great assets coming into this, and it's interesting. So, any as we close, any final comments or advice that you might give to any of the folks that might be listening in, either tips for leaders or tips for folks that are working through this current environment? Any parting comments on that front?
Just frequent communication. So from the top down, make sure everybody's aligned. and being well informed on what's going on, both nationally and locally at your level, so you're prepared to make decisions very quickly and safely.
Great. Well, Brian, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me. It's good to see you again, brother.
Excellent.
It's been a little
You
while.
too. It's been a while.
And yeah, it has. So we'll have to set up another meeting just to get caught up on the families and see how things are going. But best wishes to you and your team. It's great to hear you guys are managing through this little journey here day by day, right? And just keep things moving forward and making decisions you have to make. So good chatting with you, man. Take care.
Yes, sir. Great to see you, Greg. Take care.
Bye.
See you.